Hello, sheep friends. Welcome back to Feed the Sheep podcast. I am so excited to bring you guys episode number 15. It is with Gail Fuller and Lynette Miller, and I am just so thankful to have them on the podcast. They are blessings to the earth, just great people, and a wealth of knowledge for sheep farmers. So I hope that you guys get lots of information out of this. I did want to just mention, though, that when we talk about grazing in this episode, you can tell that we shot it previous. So we shot this at the beginning of April, and now it is the beginning of June. So when we talk about grazing and you're like, wait a second, that doesn't sound right, that's why. So I will stop rambling. Thank you for being here, guys, and I hope that you guys enjoy the episode. Let's get into it. Hi, sheep friends. Welcome back to Feed the Sheep podcast. I'm your host, Kelsey Keeling of Balanced Ruminant Grazers. We all know that the first rule of having sheep is to make sure you feed the sheep. But how do you build a profitable sheep flock? If you've asked yourself that question, this is the podcast for you. Join me as I sit down for conversations with others in the industry and we learn together from their experience. And go ahead and tell everybody who you guys are and where you're located at.
Well, I'm Lynette Miller, and this is Gail Fuller, and we are in Severy, Kansas, on a beautiful farm at the edge of the Flint Hills in Kansas. Fuller Farms is the name of it.
Yep, we're 1 hour east of Wichita for reference.
Yeah. And then, how long have you guys been on that farm? I can't remember.
5.5 years,
Okay,
give or take a few weeks.
there you go.
We moved here in September of 2019, so right before the pandemic. So,
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So you've been in a continual drought the entire time you've been there, just about, huh?
It rained nonstop the year we moved. Like Lynette said, we moved in September, and in 2019 there was 90 inches of rainfall on this farm. I'm not sure we've had 90 inches of rainfall since we've been here.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah.
we were like, we will never run out of water.
Right.
I wore out a pair of muck boots.
Yeah.
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 And we were out of water by June of 2020 and
Yeah.
haven't had any since.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. It'll make you tough. That's for sure.
It'll make you tough, fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I always tell Ryan. I'm like, I'm glad we got the drought under our belt within the first 5 years of our farming. Like, hopefully it comes in handy down the road.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then we go out and see the winds just like today, and it's like,
That's
okay,
crazy.
is it going to be another drought year or not? I don't know. You can't worry about it though. So,
No, it helps if we kind of plan for it since that's what we've been. So it just,
Yeah.
but still, if it starts raining, then it's a really, really good year. But,
Yeah.
we're kind of prepared for drought because that's where we've been. But we did get 24 rainfall did increase last year.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
I'm not willing to start upping the numbers of the herd or the flock yet.
okay.
We're just cautiously optimistic because I'm not too certain it's over yet, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
better than we were.
Yep. Yep.
So us being on the west side of Wichita, how much is their rain difference than ours? Quite a bit, I would assume.
Yeah. More every year. More every year. Yeah. We claim to be 24 to 26 inches, but
Yeah, we claim to be 36 to 38
Oh, really? Okay. I'm
for
learning all
whatever
that.
normal is anymore.
Okay.
Mhm. Right. Yeah. I don't know. You're the podcaster,
You're good.
but breakdown of the livestock
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
on what's on the farm.
So we have we direct market grass finished beef, and the bovine of choice is British white.
Mhm.
We do have a little bit of got a little bit of Jersey and a couple of cows, and there's still very, very small amounts of some Angus left over from when we started. We also direct market lamb, which we're going to talk about here tonight, and we have Katahdin sheep,
Mhm.
and we also have pastured pork, and Gloucestershire Old Spot is the main breed. We also there's a little bit of Mulefoot in them,
Mhm.
and because of the drought and some other issues, we are looking at reintroducing some new breeds, when we build back in the next year. So we're looking at maybe adding some either Berkshire or Idaho pastured pigs. And then we've got laying chickens, which are a hodgepodge of a dozen different breeds. And what else? Muscovy ducks,
Yeah.
handful of turkeys and geese running around, and we're looking at reintroducing meat chickens this year for the first time since 2021. So
Okay.
that's what we have running around right now.
Yeah, yeah. And you guys, I saw pictures on Facebook that you're getting the greenhouses ready to go. You guys do produce as well, right? Kind of.
No,
No?
no produce. We
Okay.
just really want to produce enough for us. I mean,
Okay.
our goal is to raise, it's really hard to find good produce in our area. And so because of that, it's one of those things that if we can produce, that for ourselves, yeah, it really helps.
But you are correct. We did come here initially thinking we would be offering produce, but the family that came with us is gone, and so we just don't have the manpower. We can hardly run the livestock. So yeah, the greenhouse is just for us for the most part.
Yeah. I have had a garden that is just right out there, and it looks worse and worse every year. I'm like, I promise I love you. It's just I have all these sheep and all these kids, and it's hard to, I mean, you wear yourself thin very quickly if you're not if you don't stay focused.
Yeah.
How many farmers markets are you guys doing?
We only do one farmer's market,
Okay.
and that's in Emporia where we came from, and it's more of a social event for us to see friends and reminisce a little bit. Farmers markets just they aren't a good place to make money.
Yeah.
For us anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I hear over and over again. Yep. Yep. Which is tough, but yeah.
Yep. We have used them to build customer bases that it's a good place to meet people, but I have a better use of my time on Saturdays once we have a customer base built. We do like Kansas City and Wichita, we do deliveries once a month.
Oh,
I
see.
But no market. So that's how we do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kansas City and Wichita, you said?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then are you selling your sheep and your other livestock or your meats by the cut? Or are you doing wholes and halves for that kind of
Both.
thing? Okay.
Both. We started in 2012 or 13, and we were just going to sell halves and wholes. That was the whole idea. I didn't want to mess with buying freezers, and I'm not a business person from managing an inventory standpoint, and I wanted simple, and I was still a big farmer and just wanted to mass produce. And the customers told us very quickly they weren't interested in that.
Yeah.
They would rather pay a premium to buy 2 or 3 pieces at a time than to buy it in bulk.
Yeah.
So here we are.
And we found a lot of them don't have freezers. And
Yes.
that makes a big difference.
Yes.
We grew up with freezers. I mean, we always had a freezer, and we even bought our kids freezers when they went to college, so that they could come home, stock up, and go back. But most people don't have one.
Yeah.
So.
I live in my own little bubble, but we have 3 freezers and they're always full, and we're blessed, but my goodness, yeah, I talk to my buddies and they say, "Hey, can I get 5 pounds of hamburger?" And I think, and they have kids,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's like 2 days, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's been really nice having sheep and cow. Like, I'm excited to get pork this summer. For the diversity of our diet, How long have you guys had your sheep? Did your sheep come to that farm? Like, you already had them, didn't you? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
I remember you, Lynette, talking about different things that arose when they came to that farm. And I still need to dive into that natural sheep care book. I have it in my nightstand, but I still haven't looked at it. Been doing too many other things. But that came in handy a lot for you.
Yes. And then there was, a beautiful rancher in Oklahoma, Kim Barker. He did a beautiful, what I call the Cliff Notes of the book. And what he did was he took that book apart and he put it into two simple sections. The first section is, what symptoms are you seeing? And it's very clear exactly what the symptoms are. And then he lists out what minerals, what things to just provide him, and all natural things, which was
Cool.
amazing.
Yeah.
And then he went the other direction and he did another section where he took all of those minerals, all of those things, and he listed out what, if they are having a deficiency or if there's an out of balance. And he talked a lot about balance. So he would talk about, if one thing is out of balance, then this is going to be showing up in the sheep. And so how do you bring that back into balance? So what you think is one problem, right? It's not. It's a number of different things. And that was so fascinating for me, because it not only goes, with animal nutrition, but also with human health. And so with that, like I sent a copy of it to Gail's daughter, and she's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to send this to my functional medicine doctor, my nutritionist, because this is amazing.
That's cool.
Cool. Very cool.
So from that, did you supplement specific minerals or did some things? Okay. Do you want to
So
give
one
an
of the
example?
things that so one of the things that we had problems with was foot rot. And that's simply just an iodine deficiency. And so with that, just putting out kelp before we went into certain paddocks, because normally it was certain paddocks. It wasn't everywhere where I put the sheep, right? It was just in certain areas. On this farm, it seemed like it was some kind of lice of some type, which I'd never seen before. And it's almost always affects the ram lambs. And it's usually early in the spring. And so we figured out to put out a little bit of yellow sulfur, just offer it free choice. And if I do see some symptoms of the lice, usually there's some swelling, I'll just take a handful of it and rub it on its head, but just something simple. I mean, things that I had never seen before on the old farm have shown up on this farm. Just because we're in a completely different environment. Gail was a row crop farmer, and so I did a lot of cover crops and all of those things when I was grazing. Here, we're on the prairie. We do have some reclaimed farm ground here, but mostly it's grass and all those different forbs. So completely different. And so the sheep had to adjust. And it was quite an adventure with that. When they say it takes a year or two, they're right.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter how long you've had your sheep. When you completely uproot them and move them 1 hour south like we did, it really had a huge effect on them.
Did you have a culling
my
criteria?
Yes.
Okay.
If they don't produce, they become food.
Yeah.
We're very clear on that one. There's only one ewe that she'll always be here. Yeah.
The
What's her
calling
name?
changed a little.
Her name is Peanut. She was my bottle lamb. I call all my bottle lambs Peanut. It makes it so simple when I call them. When I call them to come and get their bottles. So her name was Peanut, and she came from the old farm, and I'm not sure how many years old she is now, but she works with half a bag. But she still produces a lamb every year, and sometimes triplets. It's been interesting.
Wow.
But
Cool.
but it's nice because she is that lead ewe.
Yep.
I can easily walk to the fence. All I have to have is really a set of fence on mine, and I just call her, Peanut, let's go. And then she lets everybody else know it's time to move, and off we go. And she'll follow me anywhere, which is amazing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Including the sort pen.
That's awesome.
Our cull practices have changed quite a bit through the years. Obviously, in the first 2 or 3 years, we had to cull for animals that wouldn't respect fence, that were jumpers, anything like that went. Anybody that couldn't handle the non-vaccine, non-insecticide, hands-off survival methods that we have, those all left. Cows are used that were covered in flies. They left, and as did their daughters. Uh, and being a typical farmer, I bought into you had to have all of those metrics, milk producing and weaning weight and all of that stuff. And I would spend hours in the sort pen picking out my favorite heifers, and half of them may not breed. So I'm like, I'm going to turn the bull in for 30 days instead of 45 on my first calf heifers, and whoever's bred stays.
There you
And
go.
whoever isn't, it became, it just became so much easier.
Yeah.
And so, those are more the ways we cull now. The peanut ewe, obviously, most ewes wouldn't get that free pass with half a bag. That's not something we would allow. But we also understand that the leadership and the knowledge and the things like that, the cow that's whoever, or the ewe that is up front, they get a free pass when they get to that age. They still have to put a live body on the ground. But they also get away with some things because of what they bring to the table.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh,
I could go 100 different directions. My gosh, I have a very selfish question. On the prairie grass, grazing in the winter months, do you require a protein supplement on those ewes, or what are you doing with them?
Yeah, so when I talked about the transition from the old farm to here, and the row cropper in me with cover crops, we were grazing green
Oh, okay.
11 or 12 months out of the year
Okay.
at the old farm on soil that has 5 to 7% organic matter.
Oh my goodness.
It was a little easy.
Yeah.
And so we get here, and even though it was the prairie, it was very degraded. There were no earthworms. There was no life below ground. The first winter was a train wreck. And so, yeah, we did start supplementing halfway through the first winter with apple cider vinegar and Lysol. We have continued that every winter, but the consumption has declined. We were feeding it to them daily in the winters of 2021 and 21-22. And this winter, we were putting it out maybe once a week at most, probably every 7 to 10 days. So I think we're getting the soil to a point and other things to a point that, and they're getting adapted also. But yeah, we have had to put out supplement. And we also, with the drought, we've not been able to graze through a winter here without hay. And so we do throw out alfalfa or something like that one day a week for additional protein. And our animals are dry in the winter, so the protein demand isn't high. So, the alfalfa every 5 to 7 days just keeps the gut bacteria going. And we don't need them to look like show animals on March 1st. That's not the goal.
Right.
So they maintain just fine.
Okay, guys, I did want to take a second to tell you about our friends over at Starkline Netting. So you guys know that we bought our Starkline Netting last summer, and I have been using it ever since. I don't even think we went back to polybraid after we purchased it. We might have done it a couple times since, but I absolutely love this netting. When we did purchase it, we went with the 42-inch positive negative sheep and goat netting, and I love it. There's so much better quality than some other things out there on the market. If you guys haven't seen my full playlist about the Starkline netting, you can go over to our YouTube channel. I'll leave it in the notes below, and I break out different videos on, setting it up, how we tear it down, pros and cons versus other nettings. So really go check out that playlist. But if you guys are interested in the Starkline netting and wanted to get a discount on it, you can get 10% off by using our code Starkline BRG10. It goes to help the podcast and helps me do these interviews. So good,
Yeah.
good. What was that second thing you said? Apple cider vinegar, and what was the other one?
Lassahol, it's like molasses.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
okay. All right.
Yeah. Sugar.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's more of a, so apple cider vinegar, we use it, it's a ferment and it's there just to keep the gut microbe fed so they can break down the low quality standing grass or
Mhm.
prairie hay that we feed. The Lassahol is an energy source because that's always, the limiting
Mhm.
factor of a ruminant is energy. So, and
Mhm.
because we don't feed corn, we don't supplement any grain at all ever, we use the Lassahol.
Okay. Okay.
How are you feeding that? Just in a bunk, like in a like
You can find all kinds of fancy technology online where
yeah.
it squirts a little bit in the water,
Oh, really?
there's a tag reader when the cow walks up to the tank.
What?
I have 2 quart jars and a 5 gallon bucket and a mineral tub.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
First come, first serve.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
how we are. We're like, we could do it complicated, but let's try to do it as simple as possible.
Yeah.
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 We try that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And-
We've learned that.
oh, no.
We've
Yeah.
learned that easy is almost always right.
And
Mhm.
it works by and large. I mean, the vinegar. So, if we're feeding like a couple of quarts of vinegar and maybe a half a quart of the Lassahol at a time, we mix it in 5 gallons of water and dump it out. And it's kind of like eating salt. I mean,
Yeah.
it's an acquired taste for the animals, and
Uh-huh.
they don't. It's not like putting out, alfalfa or something like that, where
Yeah.
they're dying to get it. They eat what they need and they leave the rest.
Okay.
We're with that. I don't know what she's going to title this podcast, but boy, the apple cider vinegar. We're on a very degraded farm ourselves, and constantly dealing. We're predominantly warm season grasses, and if anything would make money out here, it is getting them to consume dead warm season grasses in winter.
Yeah.
And man, apple cider vinegar would sure be something we'd like to experiment with. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was certainly trying when we came here because, like I said, we had fabulous forage for 11 and a half at
yeah.
least months of the year. And now
Yeah.
you're in the tall grass prairie where you've got, a 60 to 90-day window of prime grazing.
Yeah.
And, the rest of the time it's either going downhill or dormant. So
Yeah.
it certainly made an adjustment in our management. And we still haven't gotten, we're, they're getting better at grazing in the wintertime, but it's been a learning curve for us and for the livestock as well.
Yeah.
And we even adjusted even lambing. I went another week later so that I start
yeah.
lambing. I dropped the rams in instead of, my usual, which was around Thanksgiving that weekend. I go a week later. I
Mhm.
found that, we got a little more grass by the time, I go with that later April, early May
Yeah.
for lambing. We've got a little more grass. It seems like they do so much better
Yeah.
just by that 1 week adjustment.
Yeah,
Mhm.
even though we moved an hour south, the season here is at least 10 days longer.
Uh-huh.
We green up at least a week earlier in the spring, but there's no C3 grasses here. There's no brome, no fescue.
Right.
And so we're very, tied to the warm season. So we have seeded about 15 acres to some cool season pasture. We obviously it takes rain, so we've now seeded it twice, and we've spent twice what we should have on seed, and we still have nothing to graze. But someday it'll rain, and we'll have some cool season pasture to help spread the grazing window out. We've also got there's about 20 acres that we're rewilding that was farm ground when we got here, and it's coming along really nice. We're starting to see a lot of forbs and warm season grasses, but until then, it's heavy cheat, which
Yeah.
is what we need right now. So
Right.
that's actually what we're grazing today. So
Yeah.
it's been a bit of a saver for us to get us started in the spring.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, You're using netting still? I think I saw netting on your farm. Only netting, or are you doing
Yeah.
poly braid as well?
So we've kind of learned that we can use that poly braid really well as a back fence, for the sheep, especially in more of the dormant season. That seems to work pretty good. Or when it's first growing, it seems like it works well in the spring. Um, but yeah, I really love the netting. I was so lucky that when I bought my sheep, the lady showed me how to use the netting. And so day one, she had me, as you know, when we were buying the sheep, she had me go out, pick up the fence, put up the fence, and she showed me how to use it. And so because of that, it made it very simple for me.
Uh-huh.
I also like the netting because we can really focus on certain areas. That's been the amazing part.
Oh, okay.
Any
Yeah.
any problem, what we consider a problem area,
Mhm.
we can park them there,
Mhm.
even in the dormant season. We can park them there and we can force them onto stuff that, maybe they're not real fond of, or they've maybe not tried before. But a lot of times they'll try it after being parked on there. And we'll feed hay and other things with it. But yeah, it gives them that opportunity.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're pretty well trained to either fencing, um, using the poly braid in the winter. It works, but we have to run a third wire in the wintertime
Mhm.
to keep them in. And so it's easier to run the netting than it is the poly braid, and especially in the dormant season. And because that's what we're doing and that they're trained to it, that's what we use most of the time now.
Last year, our winter was with poly braid, and it was, oh, they're not out on 54. We're good. They're somewhere on the west side still. It's okay.
Yeah.
And so this last summer we got netting, and we love it for that reason, being able to lock them down on areas. And it's been really good to have both. Like we could use both, but by the time we put up a third wire, it's like I could have already done the netting. So yeah.
Yeah.
We-
Yeah.
We've noticed personality traits even with the netting. She is better at, let's see, I am better at tossing it out and then she'll stake it in. So we have to like work together. And I don't know. And then when we pick it up, if I get on one end and she gets on the other, it works faster too. So it like makes us bond even.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
interesting how that is. So
definitely.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. We're the same way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
we're working together, I'm picking it up and she's putting it down.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Little side tangent off of sheep, but how is it working with your spouse? Ryan and I have come to love it. We're very different people. I feel like you guys could say the same, but
Mhm.
um, I don't know. I feel like it's the way God, like we feel like it's the way God intended a marriage to be, that like, we're not always going to get along, but we still got to go out and do the project together. And there's a greater purpose that we're working towards together.
Yeah.
It brings diversity to the grazing because, and I don't know why we still do it, but we'll sit here for 10 minutes talking about what we're going to do. And then we'll go down. And if she's putting out the fence, it goes nowhere where we discussed it at all. So, we can save the 10 minutes. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. It all gets done, but she fences one way, I fence another way.
Yep.
So it
Yep.
just brings more diversity to the system. It's all
Yes.
good. There's no right or no wrong.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is
And it
true.
has been really interesting because, yeah, I am full time on the farm, since 2022 of January because I started in a work at home job, and with that, yeah, there's those times, right, when we actually every day we're together. We eat 3 meals a day together, so it was a little bit of an adjustment to do that, but yeah, we're into year year three, right? Year three.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're into year three of this, and it really is nice.
Mhm.
I always know what's going on the farm, and so does he. And yeah, it's been a really good journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tell Kelsey there's little intricacies and stories that only me and her are ever gonna really know. There's things that have
Exactly.
occurred, that it's just you can't even hardly put it into words. Yeah. It's pretty
Exactly.
interesting.
Yeah. And the things we've seen,
Yeah.
it's been amazing.
Yeah.
It really has.
Definitely.
And things you never thought you'd ever see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We,
So cool.
I don't know. We were out one night. Do you want to tell? I don't mean to go on a total side tangent, but one night we were out trying to put the calves in the lean-to, and it was a blizzard.
Oh yeah.
Just, yeah,
They turned around and they were gonna take me, and then I don't know. It was just like
12 o'clock at night.
yeah.
There was a blizzard coming in. We had them in the corral for some. I think we were weaning them or something. And
Yeah.
but it's just the
The
stories.
craziness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay. It gives us character. I've just embraced that. Like I'm gonna be a different person by the end of this, and I hopefully will be stronger, not broken.
We're definitely.
And the more people we talk to, right, they all have their stories
Yeah.
Mhm.
and things that you just would never believe have happened, you know,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
it happens to all of us.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of wish
Yeah.
more people could have the experience
Oh.
to be married
Yeah.
on a farm. It is pretty wild, you know. I don't
It really is.
know.
Yeah. Well, you really get to know each other, don't you? I mean, you
Yeah,
know
Yeah.
yeah,
every.
yeah,
Good,
yeah,
the bad, and
Yeah.
the ugly.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah. And friends get to be interesting because when you're always working with somebody, yeah, it's interesting because that's one of the bigger changes from working from home is that, I truly enjoy, Gail and talking to him and all of those things because we have, we're here every day together. The
Mhm,
stories yeah,
mhm.
are always good. And yeah, what he sees and brings back to the house and what I see and bring back to the house is
Yeah.
is is so interesting. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
I've really enjoyed it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I uh I have one for you, Gail. I had a million questions. My goodness, my brain just runs. But this one, if you don't have an answer, it's totally fine. But something that I would like to get your perspective on. Okay, I don't know, we are aspiring to be fairly intensive with our grazing of our livestock, putting down fairly high density grazing. On, like you said, with the warm season grasses having that short window with quality, if you put a pretty intensive graze, say take 60 to 80% of the forage on a warm season grass pasture in July, and could go in and no-till some form of a cover crop into that so you could have quality maybe in September, October, what kind of thing would you plant in South Central Kansas? And it's fine if you don't have an answer.
Yeah, I don't because I've never attempted that.
Okay. Okay.
I and I'm not going to tell you not to. But I'm going to be concerned that you could struggle getting enough moisture to get it out of the ground
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
August.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
I do pasture cropping with C3s, coming in and planting something at the end of the beginning of the dormant season,
Oh, okay.
late September, early October,
Yeah.
and that works great. And that's um, probably not going to get any fall grazing, but it can get you some spring grazing for sure.
Okay.
And I have planted warm season cover crops into brome in June when it goes dormant,
Yeah.
but you don't have that true dormant season, so it's a little trickier.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
guess if you wanted to roll the dice and you had some seed burning a hole in your pocket, um,
Yeah. That's
I think Sedan Sedan is one that is tough and it makes no sense because you're planting a grass into a grass. That's
Right.
what worked in the brome.
Yeah.
And brome brome has no diversity at all. That's all it is brome.
Right.
But
Right.
we would plant 10 to 20 way mixes into the brome and we would get the Sedan and the sun hemp.
Yeah.
Millets would not come up. Sunflowers, things that we thought would come up like sunflowers and mung beans and cowpeas,
Yeah.
never made it.
Yeah.
But the Sedan and the sun hemp could handle that. So
Okay.
Those would be the ones that I would probably try if you want to try an acre and see. I would
Yeah.
certainly like to see some pictures and hear how it goes.
Yeah. 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 I may try that. The only, I don't, not disparagingly at all, but really, I'm a very poor farmer. I'm not even a farmer, but, I'm more of a livestock guy, but sun hemp is about the only thing I can get to really grow out here as far as a cover crop. And I've read that, because it makes its own nitrogen, and I don't have any real other way of putting nitrogen out. So, but sun hemp's been good for me.
Uh,
But
yeah, yeah, it's a pretty easy one to grow. I mean, it's a tough
right,
plant that loves the heat. So,
right,
uh,
right. But yeah,
something else I was thinking of now. Oh, barley.
barley.
Barley will germinate in a warmer soil than any of the other cereals, is my understanding. So
Okay. All right.
you
Yeah.
might throw a little bit of barley in and see.
Okay.
It's not as winter hardy as the rye, but it grows faster in the fall, so you could get some fall grazing, and it should overwinter, so you could get some fall and some spring grazing
Mm-hmm.
if everything worked perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you guys multi-species graze all year round or separate at lambing only? Talk about that really quick.
We had kept them separate for the most part, almost the entire time at the old farm. They were apart more than they were together, but they have been together here nonstop for 2 years. We were running them together and then separated at lambing and calving. Lynette was a little nervous about baby lambs under cows, but we finally tried it 3 years ago. We broke one leg on one lamb
And we,
out of
yeah, and we
out
could
of 60
tell,
ewes.
yeah, and when we brought them in the fall, we couldn't even tell.
Yeah.
She healed up quickly and yeah,
Cool.
because it was young, really.
And the flirt had only been together 6 or 8 months when we went into that first calving and or birthing season. And they were still learning at that time. The cows still thought they were in charge. So when you open the gate, they wanted to go first. They no longer do. They always last out now. They have realized the sheep are too dumb to get out of the way. And so they just wait and they let the sheep go first. And so we don't have accidents at the gate anymore when we're moving them.
Oh, yeah.
They've all, they've all bonded enough now that it's not an issue. I've got a picture of a cow last year during our second season with a baby lamb that she was nuzzling and trying to figure out why it was by itself. So, and she stood there until mom
Wow.
came back.
Oh, how
So
cute.
there's been good bonding, and they, I'll say they get along, but they still aren't the best of friends. They're like brothers and sisters. There's still plenty of bickering,
Yeah.
but right now, as the sun's starting to set, the sheep know where the protection is. They know the cows are it, and they suddenly become really good friends with the cows about dark.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And-
So you are seeing
Yeah, and
predator.
it's been really,
Go ahead. Oh, I was just saying you are seeing predator protection a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, our cows are very docile until calving season, and they become extremely aggressive then. Uh, so yeah, it works really well, and really predators really aren't an issue with the sheep once the lambs are 2, 3, 4 weeks old. I mean, the lambs are fast enough.
Yeah.
It's a chase for a coyote to catch one.
Yeah.
There's easier meals out there for them by then. Really, the only sheep we've lost have been ones that were either crippled or weren't feeling well, that were at the back of the pack, which are the ones that needed thinned anyway. So,
Yeah.
as far as we know, we've never lost a healthy lamb to a coyote.
Okay, guys, I did want to take one more break to tell you about a list that I am building for the Feed the Sheep podcast listeners. And that is educational books that you can get on Amazon. One click of a button, they can be at your door the next day or in a couple days in our case, because we live out on the farm. But Lynette mentions in this episode the Natural Sheep care book, and I have been meaning to read it. It's at my nightstand. I'm definitely going to dive into it and get those notes in the notes below that she mentioned. But if you guys would be interested in getting one of those books, any of the books that we have on the education list, there's lots of livestock guardian dog books that I have on there too, a couple other sheep ones. I will leave that in the notes below. But if you use the link in the notes below, it just helps to go support the podcast and help support these interviews that I do.
But one thing that we've kind of figured out too is my concern was I wouldn't be able to sort, because I'd have to take the cows and the sheep up. And that's not true. It's so interesting because of this agreement that the cows and the sheep have. The cows will wait for the sheep to go through first. So that makes it very simple to short off. I'll just call the ewe, open the fence. She comes forward, calls everybody with her, and they all come. Even if it's so interesting, even if there's a bunch of sheep towards the back, behind the cows, they'll wiggle their way through and just come right out. And yeah, we can easily take them to the sort pen for whatever reason. So that was one of my main concerns was how was I going to be able to sort when we're headed to the butcher? What is that going to look like? And it was very simple. Yeah.
Cool. That is so cool.
We would love to go to a flurd. We have some snotty cows that we need to take care of, which they'll be gone by the end of in fall. But I'm worried about putting them that learning curve, I guess, of them together. And we have dogs. We have 3 dogs that have not been around cow. I mean, they've seen the cows, but they haven't been beside them. So
have they been fence to fence and within eyesight or
no, that's what I was
proximities of
thinking.
each
We need to
other?
go
Yeah,
slow and
just
steady.
get them side by side.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We started so that when we put the flurd together, we started in dormancy season, so that Gail would roll out the bale of hay, and then everyone would go eat at the bale of hay
Large paddock.
together in a large paddock, and we made the paddocks really big so that everybody had enough room to move around, and we did that for was it 2 years? I think probably 2 years. We would just winter was always together.
Okay.
And then once it became spring and it was time for lambing, we'd separate them off.
Okay.
And that's kind of how we started. It was a good way for everyone to get to know, how does the system work? Most of the time a cow is pretty good. She starts with her head with that big swing, right? The sheep know she's starting with that swing. I get out of the road. But it took a few tosses before, they figured that all out.
But before we did that, we ran them fence to fence. I mean, they were side by side.
Okay.
We would turn them out together in a large paddock and, drive them together. And so they knew each other. So we had all of that kind of out of the way when we put them together. Now, we did not have dogs to contend with, and that certainly is even more reason in my mind to have them fence to fence for a while, because the dogs are going to have a bigger adjustment probably than the sheep and the cattle.
Yes.
Do you run dogs with yours?
Not full time.
No.
Okay.
Just in certain areas of the farm where we're either up against we're kind of learning where those predators are. So we know where the bobcat lives. We know a lot of times where and we know where that mountain lion comes through. We've seen that. And so if in those paddocks, we know to include the guardian dog. And he needs enough room too. So a lot of times if I'm fencing in with the netting, he'll run the outside. He won't be in the paddock with them because I need him on the outside is where I need him. I don't need him directly, inside with them.
Okay.
But it solved the problem. It was the craziest thing. And then a lot of times when we separate off the ram lambs, they seem to be a little more susceptible to some of the predator pressure. And so almost always we will run the guardian dog with them wherever they're at. Yeah. And once again, if they are in a paddock, I've got him on the outside.
Okay.
Yeah.
Leonard, is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Leonard
okay.
Skinner.
That's what I thought.
Leonard lives with the chickens, so his
Oh,
full-time job are the laying hens. But yeah, anytime we're in an area where we have mountain lion issues or
Yeah.
we know we have some problems, then he goes in with them while they're going through.
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
Leonard
man.
has saved us a lot of chicken, a lot of chicken. He's amazing. Yeah.
Again, I could go 100 different directions, but I guess I've kind of been observing something and curious if you guys have any thoughts. Um, I am noticing where we have the sheep, uh, I am noticing better green up and yeah, just better green, more vegetative grass coming back faster than I do where we have the cows. And my theory is not really valid, but that the manure is much smaller. And for some reason, we don't have very much biology out where I'm speaking of. So the cow pats stay there way longer than I'd like. But I don't know if that sheep manure has qualities or something breaks down better. I don't know. Have you guys noticed anything with sheep manure?
If I recall correctly, it has a higher CN ratio than cow manure,
Oh, really? Okay.
so it would have more carbon in it.
Okay.
It spreads a little better. I mean, you get a little better spread than you get with cattle.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I would think you should be seeing the green splotches, the cow pie splotches of grass. Are you seeing those that are
Not, it's hard to describe this pasture. I mean, just sandy as sandy gets. Former wheat field, former alfalfa field, back to CRP. Not much in way of earthworms. There is on the northern end where it's really sandy. You'll get occasionally some cactus, but still really good grass cover of warm season grasses. But just no biology. We're still working on that. But so.
any Forbes?
I wish there was more, but there are some, but a lot of big and little blue stem and Indian grass. And uh uh how do I say it? I don't know how to say it, I guess. I've noticed I don't use it anymore, so I guess I'm not promoting it or anything, but I did Free Choice Enterprises, they had their individual containers of minerals. And I did notice heavy selection of certain minerals, especially out on that CRP grass. So it's,
Yeah,
again, I haven't
makes
done
sense.
my stuff correctly, like soil testing and all of that, but it's lacking in something clearly. But we are
Are
grazing it, you know. So
Yeah.
are you running the sheep on that also, or just the cattle?
both, both, and
Both.
we're winter. We rested it all year this year. We kind of do a graze half the farm, leave half the farm method currently, and but uh, grazed the sheep on it all season, didn't we? Yeah, we did growing
Yes.
season and dormant season. Yeah, so yeah,
We're still in those early phases of trying to heal the farm, feels like.
Yeah. Well, and the reason I asked, I'm wondering if maybe it needs a rest from the sheep to allow the Forbes. Is there a chance they're keeping the Forbes in check a little too much?
oh,
That's kind of what they do.
I see. I see. Yeah, I just haven't seen a whole lot of forward production. Yeah, yeah. But yeah,
And you
anyways.
have winter grazed it or bale grazed it.
Yeah, yeah, I unroll hay on it. And one thing you guys said earlier that I just talked to Kelsey about, especially my dad back in the day, it was all set stocked. So and there was no water on 200 and some acres. So now I have it all quadranted up, and the far northeast corner is by far the worst. And really pathetic up there. And so I was just talking to her about using netting this coming winter and parking them there for an extended period and using hay. But So, and
Yeah.
apple cider vinegar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
We,
yeah.
you might even think about pasture cropping. That'd be a great place to try, seeding some rye in the fall or oats in late winter
Oh,
and
man.
pasture cropping it and see if you can get that biology kickstarted. And we've even experimented a little bit here with some worm castings going down with the seed, and
Mhm.
yeah, I think it helps.
Oh,
And
man.
I'm the last person to promote a product, so
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I was surprised.
Yeah.
We've seen even more on year 2
Yeah.
of using those worm castings with this, planting with the worm castings in the drill. So it was all at
Okay.
once. So it was a one-time pass, right?
Right.
So
Right. Right.
2 years.
yeah, for 2 years, yeah, two passes, but each, yeah, one per year, yeah, just
Okay.
in the planter with the seed.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yep.
yeah, that was interesting. It really was. Yeah, to see what that does. I just go back to what Christine Jones says about every time you plant a seed, right? She has a talk and it's called the MP and K talk, and you can find it on Green Cover Seeds website. But
Okay.
it's an amazing talk where she talks about, you know, how every time you plant a seed, even if it doesn't grow or what you think it sprouts and that's all it does, but all of those different bacterias that you're putting into that ground,
Uh-huh.
you're changing things.
Uh-huh.
Even though you may not see it above ground, below ground, you have made an immense change. And
Yeah.
I love that story that she tells because, we are as farmers, we expect to see, right, this beautiful growth, and sometimes we don't get it. But just to appreciate when you do put that seed in,
Uh-huh.
all of those bacteria, and she talks about how many different ones. But she also talks about how important it is to use all of the different plant families, when you are doing your covers. Because when you do that, you get all of this different diversity in that bacteria.
Mm,
Interesting.
that is so exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to listen to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. You're gonna need to link it.
Yeah.
Yes, I will.
Yeah.
Notes
Yeah.
below.
That's true.
Link it.
Yeah.
So everybody can
Yeah.
go check it out.
It is. It's a cool talk.
Talking about healing our farms and stuff, and then I just saw your post, Gail, on Facebook about healing the farm, healing you, and you healing the farm. Um, Goodness, farming is so stressful, and like especially going into it, and all the stresses of having a new farm and trying to heal the soil, and making it profitable for you to live there. Um, what have you guys like? How have you guys dealt with some of those stresses?
Yeah, you said it. It's not easy. I
Yeah.
mean, when I made the first changes that I made, the first thing that happens, I got kicked out of my community. They wasn't using the chemicals anymore, and all those things that get you talked about at the coffee shop. And most people like us are trying to make a living on a smaller acreage. We don't have the safety net financially, crop insurance or whatever that is to bail us out in 4 years of drought. So the stress just mounts. And to me, I don't think it matters how you farm, whether you're farming 10,000 acres or 10, the stress is there. I mean, you're struggling to pay the bills. You're working too hard, too long, physically burning the candle at both ends. I mean, it's just tough. So, uh, we started on working on our diets because I got sick physically before I got sick mentally. Um, I had high cholesterol, high blood pressure, all of those things that my parents and grandparents didn't have, and the doctors wanted me to start on meds. And after, I don't know, the third or fourth doctor's appointment, I let them talk me into it, and I took the meds for about 10 days. And we had already changed our diets. We were already cleaning up our diets. And I'm like, grandma and grandpa aren't taking this. None of my grandparents have this. Why do I?
Mhm.
And I threw them in the trash. And we looked up diet changes for cholesterol and blood pressure. And we got it back under control. Then I was diagnosed with macular degeneration and glaucoma. And there's no cure for glaucoma. You go blind.
No,
The
macular degeneration.
no glaucoma.
Glaucoma.
And they wanted me to take some pills, and I did some reading on the pills, and they had a 30% success rate. And the side effects are not pleasant. I'm like, why? And so we did reading on diet for glaucoma, and I cured my glaucoma with diet. And so then the depression set in, after I lost my crop insurance. My brother was killed in a farm accident, and we had our issues before that. And, the life was just unraveling. And so then depression sets in. I lose the farm. And by then, we also realized the damage the chemicals were doing to me, not just physically, but mentally. And so when we got to this farm, we really, our diet was really good, but we went all out, went completely organic, cleaned up everything. Lynette bought me a infrared sauna blanket for detoxing the chemicals.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And we thought that would just cure everything. I somehow got it in my head that, the whole food is medicine thing. Yes, food is extremely important,
Yeah.
but I got a hard smack in the head when I didn't need it, that food can't cure it all.
Yeah.
And the detox can't cure it all. And
Yeah.
I had to take a hard look in the mirror. I've talked about this quite a bit. Nicole Masters played a huge role in this when she was at our field school in 2021. And if you've not read her book, in the last chapter, she challenges regenerative ag with the best question that's been asked, and that is, how can we talk about healing farms when we're not talking about healing farmers? And this has to go hand in hand.
Sure it does.
And that just clicked for me because I was doing everything piecemeal. I was working on my mental health. I'm working on the farm. I'm working on my physical health, but I wasn't doing it in spirituality, and I wasn't doing it all together.
Mm-hmm.
And so I threw all my eggs into one basket. I went and I introduced myself to the farm, literally and figuratively. And I sat with the farm and I talked to the farm, and the farm talked to me. And I think the big steps that I had to take personally, aside from that, was I had to quit beating myself up.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're a farmer that's 60 years old and been beat up and beat down as much as I had, it had become not a daily, but an hourly occurrence. No one could give myself an ass chewing better than me. And I was really good at it. And even some of it was jokingly, oh, you dummy, you forgot to grab that bucket. It was no big deal. It was just a joke, right? But when you understand how you work at a cellular level,
Mm-hmm.
when you read a negative headline, you don't have to read the story. You consume that headline. And so even if you tell yourself jokingly, oh, you dummy, your body consumes that. It feels that. It takes that in and ingests that. So I had to quit doing that. And I thought that was difficult enough. But then I also realized that on the flip side, I had to start complimenting myself, and I had to start telling myself that I love me and that I was a good person. And that was 1,000 times harder than to quit beating myself up. But I also realized that the option to that was death. And so the incentive program was pretty good.
Yeah.
And it took a while.
Yeah.
Trust me, I didn't believe me when I told myself I liked me, let alone that I love me. I didn't, and I still don't at times, but it takes time.
Yeah.
But with that, also becomes the ability to truly love the land, to truly love the animals. I now, we haven't talked about it, but last year we turned the management of the livestock and the grazing over to the farm. The land and the animals have a say in where they go next.
Really?
And it's about communication, right? It's about truly being in sync with nature. We talk about farming in nature's image, and for me, it was nothing but propaganda until about 2 years ago. It was just hot air coming out of me because I thought I was in touch with nature, but until you sat with her barefoot,
Wow.
and learn how to communicate,
Yeah.
you're not farming in nature's image.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. I just feel like within our 5 years, I'm like put on this armor of like, I'm a farmer and I don't
Yep.
talk to people about the hard times and stuff. And it's like, no, that's not, I can already tell that's not good for you.
No, but that's
And
what we're told because
yeah,
if a farmer shows weakness, if
Yeah.
a farmer cries, if a farmer
Yeah.
tells
Yeah.
a sad story, that's showing weakness and somebody's going to take your farm away from you.
Mhm.
We've been told that, especially the men,
Yeah.
but really all of us, just for generations, is, don't show vulnerability, don't cry, don't let your emotions out. That's completely wrong. Because
Mhm.
not only am I carrying my trauma, I'm carrying the trauma of my parents, my grandparents, my great grandparents. It's been handed down in my DNA,
Mhm.
and I've handed it to my kids.
Mhm. 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 Yep.
And that
Yep.
that has to stop because we're just at a point in our, we're just seeing it. Farmers are 5 times more likely to commit suicide than the average American. We're at a point in our journey where we can no longer carry that load.
Mhm.
Well,
Sorry, Ryan, didn't mean to interrupt.
no, 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 no. I guess I just want to thank you for your openness to speak on it. Um, it's it's important, well, it's important. It's the most important thing. And
Oh,
I don't know. We're just gonna. I won't talk very long about it, but what am I? Am I 34? 34?
No, 32.
32? I'm 32.
33.
And I had a deal a little while back, 2 years ago, I think it was. I killed 25 cows in a horrific event, and went through some pretty severe depression afterwards, and had a lot of hardship, a lot of hard time, and kind of had to rebuild myself. And I'm still working on that for sure. But I guess you don't have to be, because you take your pride in what you do and in your production and your ability to do something. Well, you can't control nature and you can't control a lot of things in farming. And if you don't let go of all that, it'll kill you. So
yep,
I don't know.
it will.
It's been a journey,
Yeah,
but
thanks for sharing. And
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I just appreciate you. And you are a very good person, Gail. My goodness.
Yeah.
You are a wonderful human.
thanks.
That's why I was
And
so
and
excited to
then
have.
one thing he didn't talk about, is that we did form a group. We formed a group of called Regenerate Me. And that was part from that end of the book of For the Love of Soil, as she tells you, you've got to regenerate yourself if you want your farm to truly be at a regenerative, and people see that, right? We see that when we walk onto people's farms, what they look like and how they feel, and you can see that stress level on them. And so our goal was to create a group that was a diverse group of people, not just farmers, but other people that we could meet and talk about the true issues. A group that you knew would show up if you had a problem or if you needed help, right? But also a group that we try to meet 3 times a year, for a weekend. And
Cool.
we truly talk about the real stuff. We talk about how we feel, the problems we're having, and they're not there to solve your problems. They're just there to listen
Mhm.
and to hear you and to feel your pain. And that has been an amazing experience.
Their successes.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we share successes
Yeah.
when things do go well. Um,
Yeah.
but that has been, I wish everyone could have a group like that, because it really does help.
It's done wonders.
It has.
But, I mean, what I've learned, and for me, I mean, obviously, this isn't who I want to be or where I want to be. I mean, if I got to pick, I wasn't going to be the farmer that, first I ended up the poster child for crop insurance, and that damn sure wasn't what I wanted to be. And now here I am, the poster child for farmer depression, and no one wants that job. But we've got to talk about it.
Yeah.
And as a public speaker, because of my financial issues that I had to be pretty honest during my presentations about why the farm wasn't succeeding, or else the cover crops got blamed or the grazing got blamed. And it wasn't the reason. So, I had to be open and honest on the stage about why I was broke and that I was broke. And that's never fun. But I realized that afterwards, farmers, they wouldn't say anything during the meeting. They dang sure wouldn't say anything in the room in front of somebody, but they were finding me later. They were finding me in the hallways and calling me or whatever. And pretty soon they would break down and tell me their story. And I realized it wasn't just me.
That's right.
And I also realized that we're all carrying multi generations of trauma, and we've not been able to talk about it. And really, like this group that we started to Regenerate Me, we have programs and we have speakers and we do all this cool stuff and we hang out, but really it's just talking. It's just letting this stuff out in a safe place where it doesn't end up in the coffee shop and it doesn't end up in church and it doesn't end up at whatever.
Right.
Right. The farmers that I'm working with and that I see that break down in tears in front of me, they've never been able to trust to tell their story to somebody.
Yeah.
And
That's so true.
that's what we need the most right now, is telling their story.
Yeah.
Telling the truth.
We need truth. We need truth. Yeah.
We need truth.
Yeah. You didn't want the job, but you got it. So
I got it. Yep. I'll take it.
He'll take it. Take the burden.
If I can save one person, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Amen.
Goodness.
Amen.
No, it's been a blessing to hear your story, just the strength that's come from it. I don't know. Having Ryan go through all that, it was like, okay, like, I don't know. It was good to hear you talk about it too. What was I gonna say? What a blessing for you guys to have that farm though, now that you have your kitchen and everything. That I'm sure that has just been wonderful, like something you didn't even think of, but now it's just been great to have.
Yeah. Yeah. We're just so blessed. It's such a beautiful property.
Yeah.
And kind of back to the sitting with the land and the land realizing, the connectedness that we have. We didn't know it at the time, but this farm recruited us in 2019. It brought us here. We didn't realize it at the time why, but now we know, because it wanted to help me heal so I could heal it and we could heal others. And yeah, this, the event center that we have is just, it's a beautiful space for people to come and share a meal. And, I think besides telling our stories, food is the most important thing we can do. And I mean, when are the best conversations? They're always around food, right? So
every time.
So which is
Every
it?
time.
Is it the food or is it the conversation? Because they go hand in hand.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
So
right.
Definitely.
Healing.
Where can people find out more?
they can find me on Facebook under Gail Fuller. Same on LinkedIn and Instagram. I think Instagram, I'm Circle 7 by Fuller Farms. We have a website, fullerfieldschool.com. And we are in the process of updating the website to have an event page to talk about the other things besides the field school. So that's not out yet, but the website should be updated within a couple of weeks, and we'll start listing our events on there as we go. The Regenerate Me group, that is a private group, but we are more than happy to talk to anybody. We've had a couple of conversations with people that wanted to start something similar. So if anybody wants to start one of them in their neighborhood, we're more than happy to have that discussion. Field school is September 30th, October 1st. And there will be some other events along the way also. We've got a couple others we're getting ready to announce. So field school, we're going to talk about a lot of this stuff that we've just been talking about. The social side of farming is the hope. And we are bringing my friend and Lynette's boss, Jonathan Lundgren, will be one of the speakers.
Okay.
And to talk about the data from the 1,000 Farms Initiative. They've now sampled 1,400 farms, but they're not just sampling soil and water, they're sampling the social side and the stories and some of that as well. So we're hoping he will share some of that. And then the other speaker will be Dr. Zach Bush, who was here 6 years ago talking about Roundup and health, but this time we're going to talk about connecting with nature at the cellular level and
Very cool.
the next steps.
Man.
Cool.
We're gonna go deep.
Yeah.
So thank you again to Gail and Lynette for coming on the podcast. Be sure that you guys check out the notes below with those resources that Lynette mentioned, and we will see you guys in the next episode. Bye, guys.